Hi, my name is Brian Cook, and I beat the often path by making sure our team is ready to rock day in and day out.
Welcome back to the Beat the Often Path podcast. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. This is the show where we seek out people who are actually solving the many problems facing our species and, celebrate them because we need to. Joining me today is Brian Cook, the president of local Bounti, a company that brings fresh local produce to the world using 90% less water and land than traditional agriculture. In a world that is poised to hit 10 billion people not too long from now, we need all the help that we can get finding innovative ways to feed our population food that isn't mushy gruel or, God forbid, Soylent Green. Brian has dedicated his life to food production, and today we talk about not only what local Bounti is doing and why it's important, but also how we all need to educate ourselves better about where our food actually comes from. It's a topic that is near and dear to my heart, so here's Brian Cook of local Bounti. Well, Brian, I want you to let you know something. I prepared for this taping by sleeping standing up because I've been told that stacking and vertical and all of that stuff is better. Did I do the right thing?
Yeah, I think you need to sleep standing up and sleeping sideways. You need a little bit of everything, and you'll get that a little bit within our mission today.
A little bit of both. Okay, good, because I noticed there's a few different images to talk about. So briefly summarize at the outset of this, what is the company, what's the mission, what do you do, and why should people care about any of it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question to ask, and I think some of it you have to go back to the beginning and where it all started. So we had co-founders Craig Hurlbert and Travis Joyner, and they were out looking for a company to invest in. They spent a lot of time in the private equity space, looking at energy companies, and they kind of fell into this idea of controlled environment agriculture. And through that process, they looked at both vertical and horizontal spaces, which horizontal we would call greenhouses. And that's kind of why I tell you that, you sleep standing up and you sleep laying down. Because what we found as part of that process was if you look at the benefits of each of those independently, the true magic really comes when you combine those two together. And that's where we lead with our patent pending stack and flow technology.
Interesting. Well, I have to let you know that I didn't disclose this to your partner before this interview, but we are a bit of adversaries here because I'm a fan of wasting as much water as humanly possible. I like playing golf in Palm Springs, so I just like dumping out water, gallon out, thousands of millions of gallons. That's what I enjoy doing, so I think I might not agree with your methods.
Maybe you can think of it as this way. We'll save the water so that you could waste the water.
Okay, so how much water will you save? Because I burn through a lot.
Yeah, so when you think about greenhouse growing versus traditional farming, it's been known to save 90% less water and land. So not only do you save on the water for your golf courses, but you're also going to be able to be out there and building maybe another 18 with the land that will save.
And I'm sure they're on it right now. They're like, excellent, let's go. Okay, 90%. That seems like a big number. And I see these kinds of things. Obviously, I'm interested in this sort of tech. And when we talk about comparing to traditional farming, is anybody still doing it that way? Does anybody still use traditional farming in this industry? Or are those just old methods that nobody really does?
Yeah, no, Ross, you're definitely seeing a transition more and more over into controlled environment ag. But, there are items that are just really set for, the traditional farming. You think of things like bananas or anything on a tree. It's going to take a while for, that just economically to make sense. So what you'll see over the course of the next decade and on from there is a transition from more and more crops going from outside to inside as it makes sense at the end of the day, the consumer, right? Because, we're doing this for a lot of different reasons, but at the forefront of it is we need to get consumer fresh, flavorful products at an approachable price. And that, and we're doing everything we can in that, but it's not going to happen with everything overnight. So we're really focusing on which items we can do that with.
And obviously lettuce is one of those main items, the main item.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, right. Yes.
So we mentioned that there's a combo of two different things, sleeping vertically, which is my example, and then sleeping horizontally. And there's some kind of patent pending, some sort of technology. Can you please go into very specific details about what the patent is so that I can copy it before it's granted and bring it to market first?
Yeah, no, that'd be a hard pass, but I could give you a general overview of the high level piece of that if that's exciting to you.
You'd be surprised how often that works. No, please, of course. How does the tech work?
Yeah, so basically, what I mentioned that there was this marriage between vertical farming and the greenhouse, and so basically, what we did is we looked at when is that time that it makes no longer sense to grow it vertically, where the energy use that you put into it and the cost that goes into it and everything changes the game to where, when you get to a consumer cost perspective, is just no longer viable. And if you take it from that standpoint and you introduce it to a greenhouse, what happens to the produce then? And what we learned is that it doesn't miss a beat. So, it goes into there, it's seeing Mother Nature, it's seeing the sun, it's getting all of the goodness that comes through the greenhouse growing environment. And it is supplemented with lights as needed. But mostly it's getting everything it wants. And what you see is a sprint to the finish line. So, it's like getting something jazzed up. You set it on the starting line and boom, it gets to the finishing line. And so what it allows us to do is to do a lot more turns in a greenhouse space. And there's multiple reasons why turning is a good thing. One is the less time, this is a very capital intensive business. So the less time it spends in the greenhouse, the more you're being able to benefit the cost of those assets. Right? But it also allows you to learn a lot because as much as this business has grown, there's still a lot that we are doing to fine tune the program. We're always asking the team, hey guys, turn the dial a little bit more. How can we get a little bit better with each thing that we're doing day in and day out? And we really give that to the team to be able to run with, and they do some amazing work.
Sure. So what is the appeal, broadly speaking, of vertical farming in general? Because the first time I was introduced to this concept was probably 2008 or 9. It was a TEDx event, and I saw somebody was talking in the Netherlands, coincidentally enough, talking about how this could be the future of growing produce and food. How does vertical farming work, and why is it different, and why was that a breakthrough to begin with before this other half?
Yeah, I think it's almost the opposite there, right? The greenhouse space is what's been done for generations now. And what you've learned in that space is how to be able to take a business and work on it profitably. What it is, it's a lower, upfront cost to do so, but you never really get going with anything extravagant. It's just kind of steady Eddie. Where the vertical spot came into play, it was really exciting for a number of things. One, there was this whole conversation around, hey, you could do this anywhere. You need a building, put a building and develop it. And so that was extremely exciting. The amount of units that you could do in such a small area was extremely exciting. And those were really things that really drove excitement into it, because if you think about it, our population is growing at a very fast rate. There's not enough land to be able to handle that amount of food that we're going to need to grow. And so thinking outside the box was just required. And so that's where a lot of the excitement continued to happen around vertical. What we started to see, though, is that, again, it gets you to a certain level, and then there becomes questions on how much of that pays off. As far as being able to do it consistently year-round, profitably enough that you're here for another 5 or 10 years. And so that kind of rose the questions, and to Travis's and Craig's initial question, like, these two are, this is and this is but what happens with that magic when we kind of put it all together? And so that's really what's going to be required, and and we have to figure it out, right? Because you see these numbers that are coming through on the amount of food we'll need in the next 30 years, and it's a big task that we're ready to do our part in.
Well, that actually brings up another good point. So are you then optimistic or pessimistic about the future in general? Do you feel like we're heading on a good path in general when it comes to farming and satisfying that need, or do you see major concerns?
Yeah, no, I think we're heading in a good, we're heading in a better way than we were, and I think each year there's an acknowledgement around the need for a better way of growing. There's acknowledgement around the climate change that is happening. There's acknowledgement around the reduction of materials, of raw materials and resources that are ready. There's a lot of this, even folks who never believed in it before are starting to realize that, okay, there's only so much you could times you could say that this isn't factual before you have to jump on, and we have a funny kind of conversation within our produce world, because when we came to town as a CEA grower, we were kind of cast off as a that's cute, right, type of environment. But now, and more, you're seeing long-standing traditional farmers making bets within our space. And that tells you all you need to know right there, in my opinion, is that when you see those who are most affected by it putting bets in what once was thought of as a niche program, you start realizing that the tailwinds that are happening within our space. And the best part about it is that perfecting this, we're being able to really make this kind of a modular approach where we could take this and we could go anywhere in the world and be able to provide good, healthy produce to folks nationwide or worldwide. That to me, that's exciting. I mean, there's just no other way of saying it. It is super exciting.
See, I think, we talk about in the future, you might be able to grow produce without water. Well, I think in the future, our entire economy will be based on TikTok videos. See, I think that the reason that physics haven't changed is because nobody's gotten to 1 trillion followers. My prediction is that when the first person gets to 1 trillion followers, then physics will change. So I foresee a future where 99.99% of all people are TikTok influencers. There are no farmers. There are no mechanics. There are no builders. There's no doctors. Every child should just focus on being an influencer. That's my genuine belief. We just have to go that path. And we have to disrespect all of the farmers along the way and really make them feel bad about their life choices. That's the part 2 of my plan,
Oh my
So,
God.
we'll chop that one out. You're like, what a world. What did I agree to? No, but I really thank you, Brian. And thank you for what you're doing and for your passion and for shedding some light on all of the passionate and good people out there. That's always a great message. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on this show. And I'd like you to close it out by, if you could, promote yourself or the brand or, direct people to whatever end you'd like. And then we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ross, for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and we love giving people a little bit more insight on what we're doing day in and day out. Please follow us at localbounty.com and follow us on all of our social channels. We'll try to do better TikTok videos. Maybe an influencer is in my future. Who knows? But
that's right.
With that, man, I'll just tell you and your podcast listeners, when you're out there, be a light to others, and God bless you guys.
Well, that is a wonderful sentiment. And just for clarity, it's Bounti with an I, Bounti.
That's right.
Local Bounti with an I. Check it out. A lot of cool things with the business. Also 1% for the planet. A lot of great stuff, structure. It's a really cool thing. Keep up the hard work, and I look forward to seeing what the future brings. And so thanks again. And with that, the official podcast is over. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Beat the Often Path podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode or any of the episodes we've shared, it would mean a great deal to me if you subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice or on YouTube. And of course, if you shared either the show itself or this particular episode with somebody who might want to hear it, to help us grow the audience for the show, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. So if you've been a passive listener all this time, I get it. I understand. There's no big deal with that. But it would really, really mean a lot to me if you leave a positive review and help me grow this show. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.